and then I can record shit, really? Take 3. And then I can record and all right. Got it. And then I can record and talk over VoIP on the board at the same time.
The following podcast on the Your Own Pay podcast network will contain adult content. Listener discretion is advised. More information about this episode can be found at yourownpay.com.
Remy had to get his word in real quick.
He's like, man, yeah, you just hit record. Time to go. Let's go. Yeah.
Tap R. Let's go.
Hey, bro. Let's get into this thing. It's Damashe and Michael, just talking tech.
Man, I have not been more excited to edit an episode than what I am now. Like, I'm excited to edit again, and that's saying something.
Yeah, man.
By the way, do you want to edit this, or do you want me to?
You get this one, because I got to put together the stuff for that 1Password course.
Perfect.
And get
1Password course that, if you stay tuned, we'll be able to share with you. Oh, wait, are you recording?
Yep, I am recording.
So we're going to kind of do something slightly unconventional, and we'll explain why here in a minute. I'm going to have Damashe explain why. But those who have been listening for a while now know that we decided to record episodes in advance. And to be honest with you, we had episode 69 through 73 recorded and ready to go to get out the door. The problem is... Go ahead, Damashe.
So when we decided to do this, we had the intention, because oftentimes our shows are not topical in nature necessarily. But what I realized while editing editing 69 is we were referencing things that had happened previously, like a couple of days before at the time of recording. I also noted that oftentimes, even though we may have not been referencing news items or topical information of things that just happened, what we were talking about, we were no longer possibly doing by the time you heard the show. So one example of that is, I think Michael was trying OmniFocus, or one of us was taking a look at something besides Todoist, and that's not happening anymore, for sure. So I talked to Mike and said, hey man, look, I'm editing 69. I was editing 69. This is what I heard here that kind of bothers me. But if I cut out these sections that aren't really relevant, or people already know this information at this point, we're not adding anything new to it, we're going to end up with like a 25-minute show. Which, for those of you who have been listening for a while, we used to do those, but that's not the point of this anymore. So we decided to pick up recording fresh, turn our recordings around a whole lot quicker, which will be easier. Both of us actually took the course, the Reaper Getting Started course for podcasting. Mike can give you the actual correct, more proper title for it. But we took a course with Derek Lane, who gave us a lot of knowledge there, a lot of extremely invaluable tips. I think I mentioned to Mike yesterday that one tip that he just recently shared in that course, I would have gave him, money for it across the table in the restaurant if he'd have told me that. So we're going to be much faster, much better at editing, first of all. And we also need to get into the habit of editing as soon as we turn the show around. Because the other thing that happens to me, I'm not going to speak for Michael, but definitely will happen to me, is if I record a show and it's like, well, that's not coming out for a month, I'll get to it later. And then Mike's like, don't forget, this is coming out Tuesday. I was like, shit, man, it's Saturday and I ain't edited nothing.
Happens way too many times, I will admit. And it's not just Damashe. I get into that workflow myself too. We record it and then we're like, hey, we're done with it. Don't have to do anything with it right now. And then it's coming out. And that's why so 68, Patrick did edit that for us. And I think Patrick did a great job, really appreciated it. But right this minute, I'm not making money from the podcast. And I have to pay Patrick to get the work done. So ultimately, I have to come down to, do I want to spend money out of my pocket to bring entertainment for other people? Or do I want to go ahead, and that was a lot of P's, or do I want to go ahead and process something and do it myself, or using Damashe to be able to keep producing content for you guys? And I really think that this is worth it. for sure. So if you're interested in the course that Damashe and I took, follow us. You can either follow one of our personal accounts, which we'll probably still close with, or something new that I can announce is we have at the DM series on Twitter. If you just want to follow information about the show and not get the random stuff that I tweet out about, my Clubhouse mentions and stuff like that, just follow at the DM series. Going to take me a little bit to get used to saying that, so it's very possible that I may just go ahead and mention our Twitters. But if you follow us on Twitter, either one of the three accounts, then we will be sharing, at least I can speak for me, I suspect Damashe will be sharing when Derek's course is available for the general public. And it is a time saver for sure. When it comes to editing, I'm, as I said at the beginning, kind of excited to get into editing. Whereas in the past it was, that needs to get done. Do I want to do it right now? Or can I go find something else to do that makes me feel more productive?
Absolutely. It is, and it's the big difference. And, wanting to put those skills to use, because there's new ways of doing this. I know for certain they're going to maybe not cut my time in half. We'll see. But cut off a significant amount of time it takes to edit for me, for sure. Absolutely.
But you know how you'll know if it will cut your time in half, don't you? Is if you track your time. Have you been doing that lately, Damashe? Because I am not.
So I've only been tracking my time when I have been performing work that is being billed by me hourly. To someone. I do need to get back into the habit of tracking my time more consistently, because it's going to become more important. Because I need to know for sure how I'm actually spending my time and what I'm spending that time on, because I now have formed the LLC. And
I was going to ask if you had an announcement you wanted to make.
So you guys can go check out Bedrock Innovations LL. Well, that's not the website. That ain't the website. The website is bedrockinnovations.com. It will be linked in the show notes at yourownpay.com/DM69.
I thought you were going to go somewhere else, like talk about your services for a second.
I paused because I was trying to think, like, when is this actually going to come out? It's coming out. You trying to get this out Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can have a landing page there?
Yeah, it'll be out. It'll be out. Absolutely. That's what I'm working on this weekend. That's why I want you to edit this one so I can go ahead and finish that up this weekend. Because I can't keep,
Tomorrow morning
emailing people. And
I can't keep sharing your information, and then they're like, well, where's his website? Coming soon?
Yeah, look, there ain't even a coming soon landing page that you get from Namecheap, which is however you type it in, you just go nowhere. It's like, no, this doesn't, we can't find that server.
Right.
But no, it'll be out. Bedrock Innovations LLC is the company name. I am the owner and founder of said company, and what I'm basically doing is providing the foundational technological infrastructure for small businesses and entrepreneurs. So everything from advising you on hosting, providing that hosting, getting email services set up across the board. So that's everything from, G Suite, Office 365, fast mail type of setup for you to be able to send and receive email, down to that lower level email service of delivering emails from your website or your web app or any other transactional type of emails that need to happen, getting you hooked up with all of the things you need to run a business successfully online. So definitely go over to yourownpay.com/DM69. Click on the link to get you to Bedrock Innovations, because you might be like me and not quite certain of that spelling just a little bit. It's weird.
I'm not sure how many times I've asked Damashe, so what's your email? He gives it to me, and I'm like, can you spell it for me so I get it right?
Just a tip for those listening, Innovations does have two N's, even though iOS randomly for me, when I was trying to double check myself, did not, indicate an autocorrection or a different alternative spelling when I typed it in with one N. So it is INNOVATIONS.
So I acquired a new toy, and I kind of want to talk about it, toy/tool, and my setup to get into. Shit. Now that I think about it, and this is why pre-recording content is not ideal. we recorded DM68 before Clubhouse was even on my radar. I think it was on your radar, I think. And now Clubhouse has been around. I've been there, done that, moved on. So
it's dead now. It's all over.
No, it's not dead. It's dead to me. Oh, no, I still jump in there and play around a little bit. Not as much as I was a month ago, though, which is kind of weird. But I got a new tool toy, however you want to word that. And it is working well. I'm learning more and more about it every day. Eventually, it'll be my primary audio interface. And, well, it is, I guess, technically my primary audio interface. Although I have a Frankenstein-like setup up here. I need to clean that up. I'll explain it here in a minute. But for those who don't know, I acquired a 12 MTK, a signature 12 MTK from Soundcraft, which is a audio interface and analog mixer rolled into one. And I'm liking it. The more I use it, I can really see how quickly I will probably end up running out of inputs, but I'll get around that and make it work. And I kind of wanted to talk about the setup that I did because I just typed it up. So I'm like, it's primary on my mind. Let me explain this real quick. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's got 8 XLR ports across the top. Underneath each of those XLR ports are 1/4-inch jacks that are female. To the right of the XLR ports is a RCA left and right, and that's a line in, and a USB-B. That's weird to say. It's the printer cable. If you're familiar with printer cables, that's the one it is. I think Damashe and I talked about that while I was trying to find one because it does not ship with a USB cable, so be aware of that. Then there's a 1/4-inch to the right of the RCA, and then 3 1/4-inch jacks to the right of that, and then there's 2 XLR jacks and two XLR male jacks and 2 female 1/4-inch jacks on top of each other on the far right. And then that's on a raised up little section of the board. And then below that you have 12 knobs that go across the board. Those are your gain for each of your channels. You have 25 buttons below that. And then it's a set of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 knobs that go all the way across, and that is 12 as well. And then there's a few other knobs and buttons on here, and then there's the sliders to be able to bring your audio up and down with buttons alongside of those. The way I explained it is fairly confusing. The way it's laid out is fairly confusing, but at yourownpay.com/DM69, I'll put either in the show notes or link to a document Benjamin helped me create that will tell you what all the buttons and knobs and sliders do. Well, it'll give you the names of them. What they do, I'm still learning. So that's the way we've got it set, or that's what I've acquired. What I wanted to mention, go ahead.
And anyone that is familiar with mixers or audio interfaces or a combination of the both, like the layout of the inputs and outputs across the top, most boards that I have seen, those are kind of on that little elevated platform, like sloped up from the control knobs. And most of what goes across the mixer from left to right are repeated. They're just there for each available channel of audio that is being used. So it's not nearly as confusing as it sounds trying to explain it. And I'm going to be honest, like Mike did a fairly good job of explaining it. No one can explain a board to you, I don't think, in a very precise manner if you're not sitting looking at the exact same thing that they're describing to you. It's always going to be confusing because there's a bunch of knobs, there's a bunch of buttons, there's a bunch of sliders, and Mike has a bunch of ports. Yeah. I have a question before you get into how you have it set up. A couple of questions. So your 8 XLRs on the left-hand side of, I'm going to separate at least in my mind, what the left hand from the right hand by the XLRs, the 8 XLRs, and then you get to the RCA line in jacks. So everything to the left of that is left side. Everything to the left of RCAs for me is left side for reference. So you said that the XLRs up under each XLR is a line in 1/4-inch jack. So they're not embedded inside of the XLR females like I've seen on a lot of boards.
Correct. They are two separate jacks. Everything I've read has said do not plug two different things into these two different jacks.
Do not do that.
Yeah.
Do not do that. And that is why a lot of boards have the quarter inch embedded in the middle of the XLR so that you can't do that, because you should not do that. Absolutely don't do that.
Now, channels 1 through 6 are mono. 7 through 12 is a stereo pair. So for the 7th one, it is channel 7-8. For the 8th one, it is 9-10. And for the RCA is 11-12.
Ah, gotcha. So when you're running something into like 9-10, for example, or 7-8, you're using the line in quarter inch jack to bring in the stereo from, let's say, the computer, if that's the way you had it set up.
Nope, I'm using USB to bring it into those channels.
But if you did it that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I
like you would take one of those weird cables and route it from, like if you used a headphone jack for your computer to bring the audio in from the computer that you wanted, you would use what would be effectively a stereo pair in a line in jack up under that XLR on channel 7, right? Channel 7-8 is what it is. Okay.
Yes.
What could you plug in there that would... That's probably not a question for you. I was just wondering what would you plug into the XLR that would be stereo though?
I don't know. I bet.
Or what would happen if you plugged in a because that's a input, right? Not an output. That's an input. So it's bringing sound. Whatever you plug in there, that sound is being pulled into the board, and then you send it out elsewhere, but it's being pulled in through that. I'm curious. That might be a question to post on this list.
Hey, there you go. Question for you. Yesterday, when we were in class, and I'll get back into my setup here in a minute, was Derek doing something with like panning and stuff like that? Did you hear that at all?
During the actual class?
Yes.
He was showing you how to automate panning.
Right. Did you hear it pan, though, on your end?
Yes.
Okay. So caveat is I had audio going into channels. So when we talk about this, now I know why I didn't hear the audio. And so that's kind of important. Well, I heard the audio, but I didn't hear it panning. I bet if I would have had a slight alteration, then I would have heard that in stereo.
Before you get back into that, I want to try to figure out, maybe you was going to explain this and you still can, but I want to figure out what the issue was with your audio last night. So how did you have the audio coming in from the
So I have, and I'll explain this here in a minute, I have VoIP going into channel 6. 6 is a mono channel, not a stereo channel. So that's why I bet if I would have had it going into 7-8, it would have been
you would have been able to hear a
stereo channel. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Say something. Man, too bad I couldn't pass that through. That's exactly what happened. I slid the slider up for echo and it went through. Because you have an effects slider that will let you add effects to audio coming into the board. But I haven't figured out how to send that back out. My setup is this. I have typically the microphone plugged into line 1 if I want to go into Clubhouse. Right now it's plugged into line 3. I don't know why, because it's actually going into the computer right now via USB-C, because with the ATR 2100X, you can use XLR and USB-C at the same time. It doesn't have to be an and or. One of the reasons why I recommend this microphone is for that feature, especially if you're concerned about getting backups. And eventually I will be able to record and talk to Damashe through the board. I just haven't quite figured that out. And then I can record and talk over VoIP on the board at the same time and do it the first time and not the third or fourth time. But so that's why I have it plugged into port 3. When I have it plugged into line 1, the 6th knob down is a knob that says aux 1. And I have this set at about 1 o'clock. Now, what I have learned is when you want to send audio to auxiliary 1, which, if you guys remember the layout of the board, is the quarter inch adapter immediately to the right of the RCA jacks for channel 11 and 12. That's aux 1. The one next to that is aux 2. The one directly below that is aux 3. And the third button, and the third input is actually for a remote pedal or a foot pedal that I don't use. So I have a audio going from channel 1 over to aux 1. And that's set by turning the knob to about 1 o'clock for aux 1 on whatever audio you want to send to that auxiliary output. Then on the very right side of the board, there are 6 buttons, and to the left of those 6 buttons is 6 knobs in a weird triangle lopsided shape form, kind of hard to describe. But the top button on the right side is for adjusting the gain to aux 1. And so I have that set at 1 o'clock. So that's how much audio is getting pushed out of aux 1 that's being sent to aux 1. Hopefully that makes sense. And then I have this fancy little tool that you can pick up at AT Guys. I'll put a link to the show notes. Hey, that's another thing we need to talk about in the show notes at yourownpay.com/DM69, and it's called the Headset Buddy. So with the Headset Buddy, I have a 1/4 inch adapter plugged in with an 1/8 inch to 1/8 inch cable. And this sounds more confusing than what it is, and it can be a little confusing, but if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter and I can help you out. This is plugged into the aux 1 jack, which again is the first jack directly to the right of the RCA cables. This, or RCA input, this goes to the line in on the Headset Buddy. I don't remember which side it is because it's unplugged right now. I always look at JJ's explanation.
Yeah, JJ has a very good explanation of the layout of it, which when I first set mine up worked perfectly because he described it perfectly.
Right. So the aux 1 is going to the line in. Then on the line out, I have a RCA Y cable that's plugged into channels 11 and 12. We'll get back to where else audio is going on this board here in a minute. And that RCA Y cable is a 1/8 inch to 2 RCA cables. And that 1/8 inch is plugged into the line out on the Headset Buddy. Then the Headset Buddy is plugged into a lightning adapter to 1/8 inch female adapter. And I can hear audio in Clubhouse, and I can send audio from channel 1 to aux 1, which goes into the Headset Buddy, which goes into Clubhouse. And people talking to me go out of Clubhouse into channels 11 and 12, and that goes to my headphones that I can only hear, and they can't hear themselves. So that's my quick audio setup. I can choose to record channel 11 and 12 if I wanted to, but at this time I'm not doing that, but that is something that can be done as well. And I could really piss a lot of people off by sending channels 11 and 12 to aux 1, and you can imagine what would happen then. So that's my quick summary of how I'm using the board for Clubhouse. Let me recap a couple of other things here. I have it set so VoIP software goes into channel 6. If it's Zoom, if it's Discord, if it's TeamViewer, if it's Zoom, if it's Discord, if it's Team Talk, if it's Skype, that goes into channel 6, which my computer actually sees as channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Which my computer sees as channel 5, 6, even though I'm not using channel 5. I bet if I would have actually slid the slider up for channel 5, it would have did it in stereo too, but that's besides the point. So that's why I didn't hear the panning that we were talking about earlier, because channel 7, 8 is a single slider that will play in stereo. So is 9, 10, 11, 12. Right now I also have system sounds. So when an error happens, or if I'm on YouTube, or if I'm doing anything that involves audio coming from my system, not my screen reader, it goes into channel 7, 8. And I'm going to adjust some of these because I'm seeing how I could be more efficient with my channels here as I'm explaining this. And then into channel 9, 10 goes my screen reader, whether that be NVDA or JAWS. And the beautiful thing about this is I have 3 sliders right here that I can reach over, and if Damashe is talking too loud or I want to look something up, I can just slide Damashe, who's on channel 6 right now because we're using Zoom, down and slide JAWS up, or just slide jaws up. That way it's louder than Damashe is, and I don't have to fiddle with any buttons or software interfaces. And then right now, channel 1112, when it's not playing Clubhouse audio, is where my Reaper audio is going, so that way I can hear that as well. And then there's 3 other sliders that I'll explain, because that's going across the bottom. The last slider on the right, that's next to channel 1112 and separated from the final 3 sliders, so I guess there's 4 sliders I'm going to explain. That last slider is separated from the other 3, and it is the effects slider, so you can slide it up to add effects to what you're working on or to what you're hearing in your headphones. Separated is these 2 sliders that are right next to each other, and they're called Group 1 and Group 2. I haven't played with groups yet, but it'll let you adjust the volume for each of those. And then the final slider to the far right of the board with a single button at the top of it is the master, so I can just press it and everything coming into the board is muted. And if Damashe said mean things about me right now, I wouldn't hear them because it's muted, and now I've muted it. So that's a quick explanation of the layout of the board. Do you have any specific questions at this time? I know it's a lot.
It is a lot. So here's the thing that I do have some questions I want to ask about. One, channels 5, since the computer is treating channels 5, 6 as what's showing up. If you were to slide up the slider for channel 5 right now, does it have any effect or no?
I don't know. Keep talking.
Because it's possible that even though the computer is calling it 5, 6 because it needs a stereo out. To send stuff to, most likely.
Oh, it does. It does.
It does?
Yeah. Yep.
Did it like double what you're hearing?
Well, it turned up the volume. So like right now I have you super loud. Don't talk. Now you can talk. But yeah. So it does. But something important, and this threw me off. There is 2 buttons between the gain knob and the top knob that I was talking about. So you have the gain knob across the top row, and then directly below that is 2 buttons for each channel. The button on the right is the USB return button. So when I first told you, nope, it's not doing anything, I didn't have the USB return button pressed for channel 5, so it wasn't bringing any audio in via USB. But when I pressed that and then I turned it up, I was able to hear you loud and clear in both ears. Although you're coming through both ears right now anyways, because Zoom mixes down to mono. So
okay, so that explains that. My other solution was going to be, if it did have any effect, was, well, Mike, just get a, oh no, because you're sending it in through USB. Never mind, that wouldn't.
Oh yeah, I should have mentioned that. All of these inputs and outputs show up in Windows as their own independent sources. Windows will automatically group each section as stereo. So in Windows, technically you only have 6 input and outputs because it matches 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, it's doing a direct 2-to-2 mapping instead of a direct 1-to-1 mapping for the actual channels.
Although Reaper apparently will let me do odd mapping. So instead of doing 11-12, I could do 10-11, and I think that could be interesting.
Yeah, you probably don't want to do that.
Yeah, I got to figure out how to get audio reliably coming through the board into VoIP software, and that's one of the issues that I've faced recently, as I haven't been able to get it to work yet.
So I wonder. So what does Zoom, for example, show you for your inputs? Same
thing that Windows does. It sees 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I wonder if I and I have not tried bringing audio into channel 7, 8, for example, and seeing if maybe it has to be plugged into one of the stereo sections. I haven't tried that. And then there's also some other tools out there called Synchronous Audio Router that I need to play with to see if that'll work. So it's a beast.
Do you have to do the USB return? No, because that's what you want to come in.
That's what comes into my headphones.
Right.
Because I have my headphones plugged into the phone's jack, which I don't think I explained where it is, but that's okay, because you can go to yourownpay.com/DM69 to get that handy little guide that I'm cleaning up from what I sent Damashe. And yeah, it'll help you with hitting the ground running with this board if you choose to pick it up.
I like it personally. I am most likely going to end up with the same board because what Mike found, and here's where patience paid off for the both of us, in all honesty, because there's a couple times I almost bought a couple of boards that were on sale, and I was like, nah, because it doesn't do what I actually wanted to do. What I wanted, what Michael wanted, was what Michael now has, which is the ability to control where and how audio is routed from the board and not have to rely on a piece of software to do that. Now, this may not be the board for everybody, right? It's not saying, so don't start tweeting at us like, oh, but I have the Scarlett Focus 2x2 and it works great for me. Awesome, right? We're not saying that you have to get the board that Mike has. We both wanted some very specific things, and Mike has kind of outlined some of that with him being able to route audio to the phone for Clubhouse or any other app, because he could actually talk to people on the phone the same way as he talks to people in Clubhouse or Discord or any app that works on the phone that takes, requires a microphone. Similar thing for me, right? I want to be able to route audio in very specific ways. One possibility that I think Mike also has with this board is the ability to set up mixed minuses. So a potential issue that we have thus managed to avoid, because we've never done a podcast with more than just me and him, is potentially going to do a podcast with someone who shall remain nameless, although we'll find out if that person listens to our show or not for real. Shall remain nameless. That did
tweet
not
us
have
if you're listening.
Oh no, this person is not going to tweet.
No, he'll call us.
Twitter. No, I'm not talking about Marty. No. I'm talking about back when we were thinking about doing a show, and me and you started noodling the ideas of what could we use to connect to each other that would work, because you were on Windows as you are now, so FaceTime was not an option. Also, FaceTime was not an option because it stomps on your voiceover to an egregious degree on the Mac. We were using at the time Source Connect now. And this person doesn't have Chrome, or at that time didn't have Chrome installed on their computer, and kind of sort of refused to do it in a lot of ways. So that was out for an option. Zoom didn't occur to us because I didn't want anybody to rely. I'm not going to say it didn't occur to us. I dismissed it because I did not want anybody to rely on the fallback Zoom recording because they forgot to record. I need people to get in the habit of hitting record before they start doing something. I really need that. Also, we didn't want this person to end up trying to use their phone on random occasions because, they couldn't get in position where they needed to be, or the laptop was dead or whatever. So one thing that me and Michael discussed, and this is actually what drove me down the path to really figure out how to make a virtual mixer with loopback on the Mac, was the potential of solving the problem of me and Mike are talking to each other in Source Connect now through Chrome, and this person maybe is on FaceTime. And I can hear both of these people, and they can both hear me, but they could not hear each other. The way that you make something like that work with an actual physical board is you set up what's called a mixed minus. So Mike would hear me, and he would hear the other person talking from their separate application or separate computer. This is how a lot of studios do it. But Mike would be able to hear both of us without having himself fed back into his ears, right? Same thing for the third person in this conversation. They would hear me, they would hear Michael, but not have themselves pushed back into their ears. Yet I hear everything from everybody, including myself, which is what I kind of sort of mostly got working with Loopback. But yeah, I think this is a great board. There's a larger version of it with more inputs. It sounds like to me Michael is already contemplating, how do I get rid of this?
Damashe.
Well, he's already contemplating how to upgrade because he's running out of inputs. But it's a good board if you're trying to do the sort of things where you need to route audio in very specific ways, or you want separate tracks per thing that's being plugged in. To me, this seems like one of the better, more modernized boards that is out there, because it does have the digital audio interface built in as well.
And it has physical buttons.
That's the thing, physical buttons and knobs. That is the thing, because there are a lot of boards out there that do exactly what Mike just described, but there's a touch screen involved.
Yep. I have no touchscreen that I have to go into. The only thing I can't see is there is
meters.
What?
Oh, I said the meters?
Well, there's that too. So 2 things I can't see is that weird shaped triangle that I was talking about earlier that has aux1 volume at the top right of it. At the top part of the triangle is a knob that you twist around, and it does not like it'll loop all the way around, but you can feel clicks on it, and then you press it in to select an effect. So unless you become familiar with
that
what
was
you're
going to be
doing,
my question too.
Yep. So unless you become familiar with what you're doing or where your effects are or how you're using effects in your mix, it could be problematic. But to me, it's worth it because everything else is physical buttons and knobs and sliders and jacks to plug things into. And honestly, when I have it set up right and everything's working, I can get it to where I only have one cable going into my computer powering everything. And to me, that's worth
That's living the dream.
Yeah,
man.
it's what I've been looking for a couple of years now. So
It is living the dream, man. That is the dream. Although Mike has no, you don't. I was about to say something wrong. You don't have that problem anymore. I am going to have that problem. You don't have that problem. You just plug a cable in. I'm going to have to get a freaking adapter because I'm pretty sure nobody has decided to make a USB-B type B connector to USB-C. Freaking assholes. It's all right. I got a Thunderbolt dock. I'll just plug it into one of the USB A ports on that.
Right. And hopefully that doesn't pose its own problems because...
It shouldn't.
According to this, Monoprice has one. A USB Type B to USB Type C.
Nice.
So it looks like Damashe is going to be spending more money.
Man.
Eventually.
Let's not talk about that, man.
Hold on one sec. Nicholas is calling to tell me happy birthday.
Oh.
Wait,
is today your birthday?
Yeah.
Oh, well, happy birthday, Mike. I did not get a calendar notification.
Yeah, the 24th.
Oh, man. Happy birthday, dude. I did not even know today was actually... Look, I'm looking for a calendar notification. I didn't get shit.
Right. Maybe you need to add it to your calendar because
It's in your contact card, so it shows up. I may have turned off the birthday notification. Oh, I know it is. I turned off birthday notifications from Fantastic Hour because I had been getting them from Card Hop.
But Card Hop didn't give it to you.
Didn't give it to me today. That is terrible. That is absolutely terrible. Man, we didn't have to record on your birthday, Mallory probably was doing a thing or something.
No. She wanted to make tacos, but the hamburgers... Well, she asked me what I wanted. I'm like, well, let's just do tacos, but the hamburger's still frozen, so it's a perfect excuse. So, where was I go? Oh. So one thing that we should probably mention in full transparency, even though maybe I should have said it before I mentioned the tool that I'm using, is I am now, again, another thing we've talked about, but we haven't talked about, is I am now working part-time with AT guys and JJ over there. And that's honestly how I learned about the Headset Buddy, is he was looking at new products and he sent me one, and I've been using that quite regularly, actually. So. Yeah.
But Mike does not work on commission, so, the link in the show notes is not an affiliate link. It won't, just, it's a cool tool. And I bought my own. Mike got one because he worked there, and it made sense. I mean, to me, it would have made sense to send you one to test it out because he was testing it out. So you got to test it out at the same time. That
way, when I'm in Clubhouse and people are like, how does your audio sound so good? I just tell them, well, there's this beautiful tool called Headset Buddy you can pick up at AT Guys. But yeah, no commission.
Funnily enough, man, I said funnily enough, JJ is likely to end up with a bunch of sighted customers at AT Guys for that exact reason, because of Clubhouse.
And it's half the price of the iRig.
The iRig, right, which is the thing that everybody has settled on. And I was almost about to buy one. He saved me just in time. He's like, oh, I got this thing called a Headset Buddy. I'm waiting to get it and test it. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm waiting on that.
And then I tested it, and he heard my audio, and he was like, I got to pick one of those up. So that's my audio setup. Damashe, do you want to talk about anything you're excited about in the near future that might be in Kansas?
Wait, is it still in Kansas?
Probably.
Why the fuck would you stop in Kansas? And what are these weird-ass cities nobody's ever heard of?
Right? Welcome to shipping with UPS.
So what we're talking about is Michael actually sold me his M1 MacBook. Well, his wife's M1 MacBook Pro. No, he did not take it away from her. Go ahead.
I was going to say, although she really wants that iPad Pro, and I told her, I'm like, you don't need both.
Right. That was the impetus for her to sell it. I think is that the iPad Pro is what she wanted, and then that was even before the event and the new iPad Pros. So that's how that happened. Mike did not just yank his wife's computer out of her hands and be like, "Yep, you're done with this. It's out of here." But it's on its way to the house. It should be here it'll definitely be here the next time we record. Although it's in some weird place in Kansas. Kansas? Something like that?
Yeah, never heard of it.
Linux? Yeah, me either. That's the thing. Like, I'm using deliveries. Michael's using deliveries. Michael's watching it transit the U.S. because he wants to make sure it gets where it's supposed to go. I'm watching it because I'm anticipating it getting here. But it keeps going through these weird places that I've never heard of. I think Mike was familiar with all the places in Oregon. Everybody knows Salt Lake City, Utah. Commerce, Colorado. Never heard of that before.
Twin Falls, Idaho. I've heard of it, but
I hadn't. It was in two different places in Idaho, wasn't it? It was in Boise, I think, at first.
Everyone knows Boise.
Yeah. Then it went to Twin Falls, and I was like, man, why are there two stops in Idaho? It's not even that big. I'm sorry, people in Idaho. I love your potatoes, though. They're great. Hard to get them right now in Alabama, but they are great. But I never heard of none of these places. But yeah, M1 MacBook Pro is on its way here, which is awesome. Mike has kind of saved me some money because I was going to end up buying an M1 Mini probably in the next couple of months. Which I'm not going to do. That also would have probably have necessitated me buying a monitor as well, because it does not like.
Have one.
I do have a keyboard. I'll use the keyboard I'm using right now. I refuse to buy another keyboard. Well, I don't know. They might have gotten me to buy when they put it on sale for everyone else, that keyboard that Apple is now. Well, they're not selling it outside of the iMac yet, but I imagine once they're able to produce them in enough quantity, they'll be available to the general public.
I am not at all intrigued by the, what are they called? AirTags. I just don't. I don't lose stuff enough, and when I lose it, I've forgotten about it. So,
yeah, like there's nothing I can think of that I always know where my keys are. My keys are going to be in one of two places nowadays. They're in my pocket 99.9% of the time. The random occasion where I go in my pocket to grab my keys and they're not there, I know exactly where they are. They're in the side of my computer because I had to plug in my YubiKey.
Yeah. That makes sense. My keys are either in my sweatshirt pocket or which is where my mask is, which is something that I can't go anywhere without anyways, because, we're kind of spoiled and have these Nike washable masks. Mallory wanted to buy stuff on Nike's website.
Gotta check those out.
Yeah, they're kind of nice and they're comfortable too. And then when you wash them and you use a dryer sheet to dry them, you get the dryer sheet smell.
Nice.
And that is nice. And so they're either in my sweatshirt or they are in my top dresser drawer, which are the two places that they would be. So it's the things that I know I wouldn't lose, but I am intrigued by the Apple TV. That is one thing that we're looking at. And then the MacBook Air. No, iPad Pro. Mallory wants an iMac too, and I'm like, well, you don't need both. Let's get the ones that we can get or that we are interested in and see how things are then. So the 30th, we might end up with ordering one or both of those. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, I'm definitely ordering a new Apple TV because I need. I don't have a 4K Apple TV. I do have a 4K TV, but I don't have the 4K Apple TV because when I got the 4K TV I had, not the one that I have now, but the one that I previously had, the currently available 4K Apple TV at the time of recording was already a couple of years old. I'm like, I'm not going to buy one because they're most certainly going to update this thing in a minute, right? They would have updated it faster if you would have bought one. Probably. So yeah, finally there's a new version out, so I definitely will be picking that up. Not getting an iMac. I don't want an iMac.
No.
Although they do look nice. They do look nice.
I don't care about the colors. The colors face the wall.
Yeah, but that's for business people. That's for those who buy iMacs to sit on a desk in their offices and people see the back of them, or people who just, some people. I mean, if I had an iMac, you would actually see the color of it when you walked into what is my office right now, because my back is up against the wall, so the desk is facing out into the room.
Hey, me too, where I am right now. Now that I think about it.
But I'm not interested in the iMac. I wouldn't have been interested in this particular iMac either way, even if I wasn't buying the MacBook Pro, because it is the M1 variant. I was willing to go for a M1 Mini because I have a use case for that right now, and I also have a use case for it when I buy a more upgraded Pro level machine at some point. Same thing with the MacBook Pro. Like, I have a use for it now, most certainly, because my poor MacBook Pro Intel 2015 is over here crying right now. The fan is just spinning. It is driving me nuts.
The only drawback to this MacBook Pro is it does have a fan, doesn't it? That could engage if needed.
It could, but I highly doubt that it would.
Not with the things we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, people were trying to make it come on during the review period, and most people were not successful in that. And they were doing all of the stress testing, running, Geekbench and rendering 8K video and Final Cut, and like they couldn't get it to come on. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to be an issue for me at all.
Speaking of selling Mallory's MacBooks, if anyone's interested in mid-2017.
Reach out on Twitter. You should just tweet it.
I should.
That's what Marco Arment does when he wants to sell something. He just tweets it.
Yeah, but he's got a lot more followers than I do. Although he's got a lot more dedicated followers. I don't know actually how many followers he has.
He probably has more followers.
Yeah.
Than you do. I don't know. How many followers do you have? I know he has more than I do.
4,600.
Yeah, he probably has more than you do.
Yeah. I might post it on Blind Bargains, though. See if I can get more than what Apple would give me if I traded it in.
That is also a possibility for my current MacBook Pro, is that I'll trade it into Apple, depending on what they would give me for it. I don't think I would get. Actually, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, try it out. See, because even if they only gave you 150, that makes the Apple TV $29 for the 32 gig.
I'm not taking 150. I'll keep it if that's the case.
Yeah,
could always turn it into a Chromebook. But the things that I was excited about at the spring-loaded Apple event were the iPad Pros. I can't wait for WWDC now, because I feel like there's another bit to this as to why and for anyone listening who did not watch the event and hasn't read any news anywhere about it, they put the M1 in the iPad Pro. Both versions of it, the 12.9 inch and the 11 inch iPad Pro, now have the M1 chip, or will have the M1 chip when they go up for sale. Right now, it doesn't make a lot of sense because the software hasn't changed to allow you to do anything with that. But we'll see what WWDC brings.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, I think. And to me, it's like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like what's coming up? What's next? What else do you have for us, Apple? Thank you for teasing us in April. Now bring us June.
Yeah. I'm kind of on the fence because I'm like, I know there's going to be something new iPad Pro wise, maybe iPad across the board, definitely, but iPad Pro specifically because of that chip being there. But also feel like all of the possible things that it could be, like what most people generally probably want it to be, is probably not going to be that, right? Like the first thing I thought about is they're not going to let me just run Mac software on the iPad. That's probably not going to happen this year.
Would be nice, but probably not.
Yeah. Also, most of the apps that I would actually like to run on the iPad Pro that come from the Mac are not in the Mac App Store, which means they would not be available anyway. Like Audio Hijack. Reaper. That would be amazing. Reaper would also be amazing on the iPad. Possibly. Well, I don't know. That would require Reaper to actually make it. That would be a lot of work for. Don't do that. That would be a lot of work for Jamie.
Yeah,
we'll have to start a GoFundMe for Jamie at that point, because look, he's doing serious work with Osara now. Like we would need a Patreon. That's what we would need to set up for Jamie at that point, or a memberful. Like you don't get anything except Osara, but pay money, $25 a month for everybody. Possibly we could see them open it up to the point where you could run multiple streams of audio concurrently, so that you could, have a Zoom call going on and also be, able to record that audio or record yourself into a different application. Putting Thunderbolt 4 on it. Oh yeah, I got to come back to that. So putting Thunderbolt 4 on there, again, a monitor, nobody really cares, because you can't do much with connecting a monitor to the iPad Pro at this point anyway. It just mirrors your screen up on the iPad, on the external display. So you can't split screen an app, or, let me put Safari or let me put YouTube on the external display and then keep Safari open on. Like, you can't do that yet, right? That's probably going to be the most obvious step that they're going to take. I don't know what else they would do. Thunderbolt 4, though, just to branch off to that for a second. I finally, because I had to go back and listen to Know a Little More, we'll link to it at yourownpay.com/DM69, but the Know a Little More episode on Thunderbolt 4. Tom recently kind of updated it just a little bit to mention Apple's M1 implementation and how that works. But I now finally have a answer that I am satisfied with, that I believe to be true, about which one matters the most, Thunderbolt 4 or USB 4. And the answer is, if you want to make sure that your port is capable of all of the possible things that a port can do at this point in time, you want Thunderbolt 4. Because Thunderbolt 4 also incorporates USB 4.
Ah, okay. I saw that episode. I just hadn't listened to it yet, so I will see this. He's telling all these links going to be in the show notes, and guess who gets to come up with these? Oh,
man, because you're going to edit the show. You're going to send it to me to listen to before you even try to do anything with it, because you're going to want me to hear how amazingly you edited it and, using some new tricks to actually apply effects. I didn't even send this through Orphonic.
Yeah, maybe.
And I'll help you make the links at that point. Yeah. But yeah, that's I have been trying. I knew it worked one way or the other, either USB 4 incorporated Thunderbolt 4 or vice versa, and I wasn't sure until I listened to that episode earlier today, and I was like, okay, now I got it. So if a port has Thunderbolt 4, then you get everything that Thunderbolt can do. You get everything that USB can do. Because Thunderbolt 4 incorporates USB 4, and you can't have a Thunderbolt 4 certification without incorporating all of the capabilities of Thunderbolt itself, which has been problematic over the years with Thunderbolt 1 through 3, because the spec was there, but you was left up to the implementer, for their particular machines, whether or not they implemented the entire spec or not. And most times they did not, with the exception of Apple. Apple, I think, is the only company that consistently, year in, year out, with Thunderbolt, added all of the capabilities that Thunderbolt had to their machines. But they also were involved in creating the spec originally with Intel anyway, so it kind of makes sense. Like, it would be a little stupid for them not to do it, is what I'm trying to say. So Thunderbolt 4, which is on the iPad Pro, which means you also get USB 4 speeds on the iPad Pro if you just want to. I just advised a friend of mine, like, man, you can go buy, because he's getting a new iPad Pro. And he was like, so I can get a Thunderbolt dock. I was like, you could, but you could also get a USB-C dock and, save yourself a whole ton of shitload of money.
Yep. So I have one last announcement to make, and unless you have anything else, I think we'll...
So announcements all over the place today.
Yeah. Well, this announcement is something that I'm going to say, but it could change. At this present time, the DM series will not have an Apple subscription, or you won't be able to subscribe to the DM series. You can follow us in Apple, but you can't subscribe to us unless Damashe has any ideas. Because I don't.
Nope. I don't know whatsoever. Here's my problem with that, though, because I did kind of forget about it. I got a little bit more detail about that program, and I was like, nope, not doing it. Oh yeah, Spotify's doing their own kind of thing like that, too.
Of course they are.
That's my problem with it in general. That was my problem with Apple's before I heard about Spotify's, which is, yes, you can subscribe. And just to back up for a second. So one of the other things that Apple very briefly touched upon at the beginning of their keynote on Tuesday the 20th was they have changed the terminology in the Apple Podcast apps to follow a show. So you follow a show in podcasts. And the reason is they did that is what people speculated there. You can now have a subscription to a show, which would get you, whatever perks the producer of the podcast decides to give you. So, early access to content or bonus content or whatever. What you cannot do there at this point is connect that to any sort of external existing membership program. So let's say if we started a membership program for the Your Own Pay Podcast Network and it gave you Discord access or something like that, we couldn't give that to the people inside of Apple's subscription model because we don't know who they are. We would not know who they are. So we don't have a way to let them in and validate that they actually have that subscription, right? And I don't know about you, but I'm not trying to get into the whole send me your receipt to verify your purchase.
No, too much work. Too much work, not worth it.
Well, too much work, and then how do I have to do that every month, right? Because you can pay for 1 month and then cancel, and then you're still sitting around hanging out on my Discord, so disrupting things.
Is the subscription at this time, and of course things can change, and maybe things will change with WWDC, who knows? But is the subscription only then for exclusive content if you're listening in the podcast app?
Yes.
And that's another big thing.
Yeah, that's the other thing I didn't like either. There will be no public RSS, not public, but there will not be a RSS feed you could take and add to Overcast or Castro or whatever to listen to it. Spotify's is going to be the same, so you won't be able to subscribe to a premium podcast and Spotify and grab a RSS link and add that to your Castro application and listen that way. You're going to have to listen inside of those applications. Again, I don't know how many of our listeners use Apple Podcasts, but here's the deal. I'm not into trying to make anybody switch to a specific application to listen to my show. Hence the reason I would never sell my show or sell our show to Spotify
or Wondery or someone like that. Yep.
Right? Because I'm not going to force people to be like, oh, you got to come listen in this particular application. That will go against everything I have stood for over the years we've been doing this show. You heard how many times I've ran it. I can't believe they have this locked down. He sold out. All it cost him was $200 million and he put his show on Spotify. Look, Spotify, you show it with $200 million. I might put the show on Spotify. I'm sorry, y'all.
Spotify, someone from Spotify is listening. They're like, well, I wonder how much we can get him to sell out for.
Well, you show it with that Joe Rogan check. Like, I'll put the show on Spotify. The exact same as it is right now. So, you may have some sporadic months where we don't release an episode at all, but this is what you bought.
But I think you can listen to us on Spotify for free. And if not, we'll have to fix that because I got to look into that. Apparently, we're in Amazon Podcasts, but we're not an Audible podcast. So I got to look into that. I found that out today.
I didn't know Audible actually was running their own. I thought all their shows were like exclusive content, like the Spotify.
Maxwell Ivy has his podcast, The Blind Blogger, in Audible, and I found that today while googling his website, and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know that was a thing. So I gotta look into that.
Oh well, we gotta get an Audible, man. Then I'll listen to my show in Audible.
But you wouldn't be exclusive to Audible. So
no, and that's the thing, right? Like that. I feel like this for us. If we want to do a subscription or a membership or support us or whatever, we just roll our own shit.
Hey,
right?
By the way, if you're sitting there yelling at your thing, well, I want to give you money, I will put a PayPal.me link, and you can go there and give us some money.
Go to yourownpay.com/support. There'll be a form there.
There better be before Tuesday.
And there will be. All the pieces are already in place on the website now. It's just not a form. I had to test out a Stripe add-on plugin, that Stripe Plus add-on, and I did it on your site because I didn't have I could have went somewhere and did it, but I did it on your site because I was like, well, I need to test this out for Mike anyway, so we can do something. So yeah, go to yourownpay.com/support if you would like to give us money. Right now, it's not a subscription; it's just a one-time donation. So
we don't have any exclusive content for people. I'm going to be fully transparent because we can barely get the content out we have right now.
Look, right now at this current point in time, there's no bonuses for you for doing that. You just get the good feeling of knowing that you're helping support the hosting costs for Your Own Pay or the cost of Alphonic for processing the audio, et cetera, right? But if you do want to donate.
Or courses or mixers or M1s.
Yeah, all of that, Look, if enough people go donate, I can go buy a fancy mixer and one-up Mike, and then I'll have, 24 channels. And you're like, yeah, Mike, I'm routing you through 7 different channels right now.
So on that note, I don't have anything else, do you?
Nope, I'm good, man. Thanks everybody for listening. We are back in rotation, I believe, at a higher production value, most likely as well.
Yeah. You can follow him on Twitter at Damashe, Damashe. I'm on Twitter at Payon, Payown. And the show's on Twitter, The DM Series. I'm not going to spell it. It's all one word, THEDMSERIES. So I guess I am spelling it. Show notes and more information about today's episode can be found at
yourownpay.com/DM69.
You've been listening to Your Own Pay Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, visit yourownpay.com/cast for exclusive content and to contact us today. We're eager to hear your thoughts and about how you're making this podcast your own. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon. The Your Own Pay Podcast, yourownpay.com.